Good evening, everyone. Welcome to ForcedToPod, a Force White production. My name is Saxon. You can call me Sax. Joining me tonight, I have a man who knows no stranger nor pepper too spicy. Nick, how you doing, man?
Doing okay. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Made it to the weekend. 3-day weekend, and was so timely. I feel like just came off the holidays and do that, but then something about working at the university made me like hyper aware of the fact that there's like no 3-day weekends beyond this until like whenever spring break would come up.
Right.
So it's kind of like a build your own 3-day weekend situation if you want to do anything in the front half of the year. So you're kind of trying to get to Memorial Day, honestly.
It's May. I had the realization today that I had been procrastinating some things at work, and normally on Mondays I have a meeting with a customer, and this customer, I was the one who I was procrastinating, and now I didn't have to rush to do all the stuff today because I can just do it next week.
Get to double down on
wait for the next Monday.
Yep. That's awesome. So
I'm not going to say which customer it is just in case.
Yeah, that works. That's probably better. And last but certainly not least, the man who's would always rather be outside than wherever he's at right now. The man, the myth, the legend, very popular on YouTube, friends. The one and only I Am the Mountain Man. Walker, how you doing, man?
We're good. Apparently the people love me.
The YouTube algorithm had intense feelings about Walker's consumption of peanuts. So, so if you guys are scrolling around or you follow or any of the ForcedToPod stuff, we're starting to level up our game a little bit in the new year, trying to find a way to get some clips out there, some funny things. And so Zencastr, we've talked about it a lot. It's not really something that we're like advocating strongly for. It's just what we kind of settled on using. However, they have some extra features that we hadn't really tapped into. So finding some clippable moments, and it's something that I think you just brought up in passing, and we kind of were talking about like things dogs can eat and they can't eat, and then you start talking about things humans should not eat, but you do, and so kind of went from there. So, and then as you may have just heard, just for a split second, our fourth chair on the podcast tonight, Murph is hanging out with us. And you know what? It's a dog-friendly pod, and you may hear a dog from time to time. Hey, you may hear a party upstairs at Nick's house. So doing that, but we're just going to keep rolling tonight and hanging out. So I'm looking forward to a 3-day weekend. And the grand irony of it all, Heather doesn't typically work on Mondays, but she's filling in for someone this Monday, which is a Monday I get off. So she was a little, when she told me that, I had to kind of mask a little bit. Not that I wouldn't enjoy having a Monday off with her, but there's something about like just being able to get up and like do stuff around the house, do whatever, move at my own pace, things of that sort. So,
it was funny. Kristen and I were talking about it. We're excited to have the day off. Our kids are still going to school.
Really?
Yeah, they still have school on Monday, so we're just going to be hanging out.
Is that a makeup situation for days they were out, or do they just
I don't know. It might be because we had a snow day, but I don't know, man. Central Indiana,
that's gonna be sick.
They just might not care about that holiday.
I guess so. That's a whole other conversation. But, yeah, I'm not sure. I don't remember it. I mean, I feel like that's something that we usually got off for. I know we got it off when we were at Marion and stuff. So,
yeah. I don't know.
But that's interesting. So, well, anyways, Nick, you sent over some topics, and then you started to just peeling back the curtain a little bit. Obviously, we hang out a little bit. We talk a little bit before we record the pod, get everything all settled. And Nick, you were telling us that this topic that you wanted to discuss was something that had like over an hour-long text-based conversation in a Discord server. And so I'm going to let you introduce it and kind of set this up for it, because I have opinions on this subject, but I want to hear the background behind it.
It was like, okay, so to set the scene, I have I'm in Murph in a Discord server with 5 or 6 of my buddies from the National Guard, and it's there's only 5 or 6 of us. There are several channels dedicated to all sorts of things. There's one channel where we all just do the New York Times games, mini crossword, Wordle, all that stuff, and just post our scores in that channel. That's all we talk about is crosswords and whatnot. So I've known these guys for almost a decade. We have the dumbest arguments about the stupidest things. And we really get into some like heavy nonsense in the middle of the week, right? We share dumb memes, stupid news articles, whatever. I had mentioned my YouTube algorithm has kind of been more about fitness. So I'm trying to get more fit. Even though that's a whole separate conversation. But so I mentioned that I was looking at buying one of those, basically a walking pad. It's a treadmill with no handles. It's just you just walk on it. Most of them don't go very fast. Some of them you slide under your stand-up desk or whatever, just to get my steps in is the words that I use because I think that's a funny white person phrase to use. Also because a lot of research has been done and steady state cardio is like very good for your health and for fat burning and burning calories and stuff. So I mentioned getting my steps in, and one of my friends came in hot with the getting your steps on a treadmill is not really getting your steps. It's cheating because the treadmill is moving. You're like basically it's moving your feet for you. And so everybody piled in. Like you said, it was probably several hours of the workday worth of like us just constantly back and forth, sharing articles, making fun of each other, telling each other how our opinions were stupid. And essentially what it settled into was that it's still walking, but it's cheating walking is the point that my one friend was making, and that walking outside is better. And we all said, yes, obviously that's better. And obviously they're not the same thing, but this is a way to do some of this exercise. Right. And I think he just was mostly trying to make the point that it's not the same, but he was doing a poor job of it. And so it really got off the rails. It really got out of hand. And then the funny part was that essentially he at one point he claimed that you would have to do twice as many steps for them to count. And which is, I think, especially if you put an incline and whatnot, it's not true. But the funny thing is one of the other guys in the group has a walking pad under his stand-up desk, walked for an hour, came back and said that his Fitbit registered almost exactly half the amount of steps that the app on the treadmill did. And I said, God damn it. No,
that's hilarious.
I said, I'm doubling down on buying two and using them both at the same time.
Just stack them.
It's not far off. I did double down and buy two because Kristen said she wanted one for her desk upstairs too. Because I got her one of those like up and down convertible ones.
Oh, yep. Just like for the top of the desk or whatever.
Yeah, it's powered, so she just press a button and it goes up and down. But
gotcha.
Yeah, so we didn't have to replace the whole desk. It fit. I measured, made sure it fit. The only thing that doesn't work for it is it had a built-in keyboard tray, but it sticks way out. She's short and can't, wasn't
T-Rex style.
Was not very ergonomic. So
yeah. All right, so
yeah,
I have strong opinions on this, but I'm interested to hear, Walker. I'm interested to hear your opinion on this. I'd like to fill out this conversation. We haven't seen the other thing. We understand where that came down. Walker, what are your opinions on this? This matter here.
I could see there being like some reduction in efficacy, maybe, if it has like some greater spring return. I honestly, I don't know enough about how the body works to count the calories there. Like, are you expending the same amount of energy taking a step on a treadmill as you are walking on the road? Probably. But it does. Okay, is the energy is the majority of the energy from the step, from the like forward stroke of your leg, like moving your thigh to like swing your leg forward? Where does that energy come from? Because if that's the majority of it, then it's probably the same, right? Because you have to move your leg forward regardless. Your leg's coming back the same amount,
right?
Either way.
I think most of the like quote unquote science or whatever I've seen in the past is that treadmills are a little less effective unless you have an incline. And when you add an incline, it makes it just, there's a little more resistance. So it simulates better that you're actually pushing off on the ground.
Yeah, because
which
maybe
obviously I would walk outside, but the walking paths are covered in snow. So I don't want to do that.
Yeah. And it's my philosophy on many things in life is like a little bit is better than none for almost everything. So even if it was only 10% as effective, if you're still doing that versus not doing shit sitting at your desk, then it's still radical.
Yeah. Well, and the claim was never made that like I shouldn't do it at all. Because, well, actually, I take it back. The claim was made that I shouldn't do it at all because it's not as good as walking outside, but it was made facetiously, like from the other side. So basically, my one friend said, "Hey, this guy thinks you shouldn't even get one. You shouldn't even exercise because you're not doing the real exercise." You know, making a joke,
being hyperbolic. Yeah.
My take on the whole treadmill situation is that, again, what you said is absolutely right. Like, it is better to do something than nothing. That's me speaking from my own experience. Obviously, like from having long stints of my life where I was just like a lazy bum, just sitting around all the time, doing absolutely nothing. It took us moving down to Louisville to be in a 2-bedroom apartment that then flooded, then reducing us down to a 1-bedroom apartment to make me stir crazy enough where I was like every single day, and I was working from home a lot, every single day I am going on some sort of walk. And then I just like extended it more and more and more. And then realized, okay, now it's getting very cold outside. And I was like, I'm not, even though we had a gym, treadmills, ellipticals and stuff, I was like, I would always prefer to go outside. Like, even if it's cold, even if it's raining a little bit, whatever. And so I'm a huge proponent for going outside. I walked outside 3 days this week. This day was the warmest day, but I was still bundled up, doing whatever. Super cold, but God, it just feels so good just to get out and do it, come back and do that.
Yeah,
so.
Good. Being outside's better. But the idea
for sure.
of the treadmill under the desk is that like I can do it for 2 hours while I'm working.
Sure.
And like I'm not, even if I'm on a meeting with a customer, I'm almost never on camera.
Yeah.
So I could do it then, I can do it while I'm checking emails or working tickets or whatever.
Sure.
So
it's just good for you.
I do wonder about the aspect of like moving your physical body through space as well, instead of just moving your legs and holding yourself up, essentially. You know what I mean? Like, for me, a guy my size, I'm a big dude, so literally moving myself through space, I don't know if that has like a like actual difference between, or if it's counteracted in the same way because my legs are moving backwards because of the tracks on the treadmill,
Right.
and how well does that actually simulate? But like, if I'm going, so the new neighborhood we're in, a lot of it's flat, but then as you get to the top of the neighborhood that's directly connected to us, there is a large hill that lifts up, right? And so going up that hill, especially when we're doing the summertime, Heather would be so mad at me every single time we get to the base of that hill, and she'd be like, I could just turn around and do like another half of the walk we did and get back home the other way. And I'm like, no, literally the whole point is we got to get to this hill. We got to conquer it, get to the other side and stuff. And so, yeah, I don't know. There's something about it, but yeah, you for sure need an incline because I don't really understand. People walk at like 1.5 speed, 1.5 miles per hour and just sit there and tiptoe. Basically, I'm like, all you're doing is wearing out your shoes at that point. I don't even think you're really getting any benefit. So
you're definitely getting something, but
yeah,
I'm sure. Well, yeah, I can see how this became a thing.
Right. It just became a huge thing because of our relationship and our propensity to immediately jump on somebody's opinion for no other reason than you can. So,
well, sometimes it's fun though.
I am curious.
It was a really good time. I had a great time doing it. Yep. I know one guy's blood pressure was through the roof. I mean, it was, it's fun. It happens quite often, but that was just the one I wanted to bring.
I also wonder.
I knew that you're a big walker, Sax, so I knew that I knew this was going to hit a little bit.
Yeah, I also wonder, like, so you do someone who has a walking pad all day. I know we're getting into like different bodies and caloric burning, like per activity or whatever, but I'm like, if you're going to walk that slow with it under your desk the whole time, it's essentially the same as like if you were like bouncing your leg the entire day. You know what I mean? Like someone who's super antsy and they're just sitting there like moving their legs. I'm like, there have been some people I'm sitting at dinner with or whatever. And, if you're in like let's say like a dining room and then the floor is not like laid real nice on top and they're sitting there doing it and you can just feel the entire room going. I'm like, man, you're over there running a marathon right now. It seems like just tap, 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 tap the whole thing. So,
yeah, I do that a lot too, but most of it's I'm listening to metal music in my head.
Yeah.
And pretending,
for sure.
Pretending that I can do double bass strokes because I have a kit set up with double bass pedal and I cannot do double bass strokes.
Yeah.
For real. Like it feels like I'm doing when I'm just doing it on the ground.
Yep.
I cannot do this.
Man, I've had such an itch. I know this is like such a departure from what we were literally just talking about, but I've had such an itch to go back and start playing the drums again. That's how I started playing music. Kit. And dude,
just get a nice little electric kit, throw it in there right by your keyboard.
Oh, I sprinkled it into conversation this week with Heather.
Oh, really?
I told her, I was like, because Nick and I were talking. He was talking about getting his drum set set up, and that was going to take gaming time away. And I'm like, dude, that sounds ideal. And she's like, well, you got a keyboard and a guitar right behind you. I was like, I play both those things, but I'm like, I just have a desire to hit something, like just get in,
banging on stuff. Yeah,
because there was nothing like, and I'm forever thankful. Like the staff at my grandfather's church when I was growing up. And the way that they just put up with the fact that like during the summertime, I would come to work with my mom and I would sit for hours with my earbuds on and just banging. Yeah. Bang on these live acoustic drums. I'm sure it was miserable being in there. But then we actually had a peg leg drummer. His name was Brad and he was sick. He was a great drummer, but he only had one leg.
Like the Def Leppard guy, but a leg instead of an arm.
Yeah. But he was a great drummer. But then we started having service on Sunday nights, and he wasn't coming back to church a second time that night, like that day. So my grandpa was like, "Hey, we got to play a couple songs," and he would hear me just hitting the crap out of it, and he was just like, "Hey, like trial by fire, get in here." And then, so it was all downhill from there. And then my grandpa didn't want to play the music anymore, and I was like, all right, I guess I'll start playing keys. And so that's when I started playing the keyboard and stuff. So I got an itch with it for sure.
I put silent stroke drum heads on all of the drums, so they're essentially just mesh.
Okay.
And they feel really weird, and they're really weird to tune.
Sure.
It took me forever to kind of get the snare where I wanted it or whatever, but they're very quiet. It's like a 70% reduction in sound or whatever. And then I I just have little, they're called cymbal mutes, but they're basically just little rubber pads that you put on top of the cymbal. So when you hit it, it's instantly mutes it. It sounds ridiculous unless you have headphones in when you're playing. So I can feel it and I can hear the bass a little bit and some of the snare while I'm playing. But like Reagan was down here when I was playing the other night. She was playing on the computer, which kind of goes into another topic we will bring up later, but and she just kept looking over at me because she was trying to listen to music on her iPad while she was playing The Sims, and like I was just over there just hammering away. So it was kind of funny.
That's awesome. So Nick, you had a second subject that you wanted to bring up. I don't have any context for. I mean, I read what it was, but I'm just going to let you.
The context is somebody, one of my friends on Facebook posted an infographic talking about the expansion of the range of, I don't know if it's which type of armadillo, but armadillos essentially are moving further north and getting into the Midwest and have been spotted in like southern to central Indiana. And everybody, all of our friends, they're my buddies, a guy I went to high school with, all of the people on the post are people we know from growing up. And they're like, well, armadillos in Indiana is so weird. That's such a southern thing. I didn't know that their range was expanding like that. So I'm curious. I didn't have time to do as much research as I did for frog milk, but I would like to know if there are like ecological impacts or, if there's, I guess essentially impacts on like the environment for if there are predators for armadillos, if they're eating certain bugs or whatever at a rate that's, I don't know. I guess coyotes maybe, or cars on the highway.
I think they get a lot of roadkill or a lot of car strikes, honestly. Because so on armadillos, one of their defense mechanisms is it's adorable, but they kind of sproing up into the air. They jump right into grill height. If they're getting it's super unfortunate.
Over like a squirrel or whatever. Yeah.
Right. No, so they actually get hit a lot, and it's really cute when you watch them do it. Because obviously we have a lot of armadillos down here in Texas, and I love to talk about the armadillos. Great animal.
Sorry, I just went to Google search armadillos jumping, and it autofills armadillos jumping into car.
Yeah, no, and they are. It's actually really
armadillo jumping in front of car. There are a lot of videos of this.
It's really sad.
That is very unfortunate.
And actually, the armadillo it probably is a 9-banded armadillo, and so that is like the very common one here in Texas. But it actually just got broken out into 4 different species. So it's the Texas state small mammal, I want to say, but now it's the Mexican long-nosed armadillo is like the official one, and there's 3 other subspecies of 9-banded armadillo. Then there's also like 3-banded armadillos, and maybe is it 3? Maybe it's. I don't know. I'm mostly familiar with the 9-banded one.
A different number of bands, essentially.
Yeah, no.
The I like to imagine that it's just like a pack, like an enormous pack, like migrating armadillos, but just kind of like Sonic the Hedgehog. Like they're all just balled up, just just rolling north, just northbound.
It probably honestly has a lot to do with global warming. Because they're less frozen or whatever. Yeah. So they like the heat. They like to dig.
Yeah,
but why are they?
Jokes on them because it was freaking -4 the other day here in central Indiana.
I don't know. Then I mean,
I know. Well, so I found the post, and my buddy said I've literally seen an armadillo on 2 separate occasions in Indiana in these different locations. And so the post is a screenshot, and it says expanded range, current range, and potential range. Like it has a little map of the U.S. where their current range and where their expanded range is. And it's essentially the bottom third of Indiana. And it says the 9-banded armadillo has expanded its territorial range significantly over the past several years. Originally from South America, the armadillo has now made it as far north as the Lawrence Municipal Airport. I think Lawrence is in Kansas, maybe Missouri. I don't know. And then there's the screenshot includes a clip from probably
that's in
Tumblr
Massachusetts.
Or something.
Sorry, Lawrence. You mean really?
Yeah, Lawrence Municipal Airport is in Massachusetts, North Andover.
So you get one armadillo sighting. Is that okay? What's the actual distribution of the armadillo? Right.
But the bottom half of the screenshot says, "My God, they've reached the airport with the power of aviation. They can reach anywhere in the world." And so my buddy posted this and said, I've seen them near Evansville, Indiana. And I said, a couple of them must have caught a flight to the regional airport.
Yeah. They're awesome guys. They're awesome little critters.
What do they do? They're just eating bugs?
Yeah, you see little dug up patches. That's often armadillos. They're diggers. They like that. They like curl up in their little holes underground. One key thing to know about armadillos, though, is they actually are a native carrier of Hansen's disease. Yes.
Of what? Sorry,
Hansen. So it's leprosy is what it used to be called. Medical professionals do Hansen's disease to like not if you catch leprosy, you're not gonna be like they're a leper or whatever. You just say you got Hansen's disease. And it's very curable because it's just bacterial.
I see. Interesting.
It just wasn't when Jesus was around because they didn't have soap.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
So don't touch any armadillos you see because you might
especially
get leprosy by accident. Especially dead ones that have
but it tried to jump into my arms.
Yeah. Can I tell you what gloves on?
You can cure them of leprosy and you can have them as pets.
Don't give me hope.
But it's not like it's like an easy, like, totally here, have an armadillo at the local Petco. No, it's like I think you have to be like a licensed, wildlife technician. It's one of these things.
Yeah,
so this
if
is kind of
finds out.
Yeah, this is kind of a far off joke if you don't know what an armadillo looks like. It's got how hard is the shell on the back?
It's fairly hard. I think it's keratinous. I don't know. I haven't touched an armadillo because I don't want to get Hansen's disease.
That's fair.
I've heard an apocryphal story of somebody shooting one with a 22 and the bullet ricocheting. I'm sure it was a very shallow angle, but
yeah.
Well, I was going to make a long winding joke
off the top.
Yeah, I was going to make a long winding joke back to last week's episode where we talked about both eating small rodents and eating things with the shells on, and I was going to say this is like the perfect blending of both those things. So
I would never eat an armadillo.
We'll leave that up to Walker to test for us.
Too cute. Hard veto.
Haven't you had guinea pig?
I have. I don't feel bad about the guinea pigs. Honestly, they're little bastards.
They're very cute.
They are
little bastards.
They're little bastards. That really wipes out the cuteness for me. The you've never been woken up in the middle of the night by a guinea pig shrieking.
It's not
won't feel bad.
But the leprosy thing, that's not the line for you.
That's not their fault. That is, and it also, I'm not really wanting to eat something that has leprosy broadly. So, it's a point in their favor.
You literally just told us 30 seconds ago we could cure it. Like, we can get rid of it.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah. So what's the problem? What's the problem?
There's
I
a
feel
big
like you're
push
backing
these
down
days
from a food challenge.
To get your protein that didn't get injected with the antibiotics. So,
right, yeah, you do have to give them antibiotics for that. I'm not sure what the actual
I want
course
free range armadillo with no
free range armadillo.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's possible.
The conversation about the armadillos getting to the airport reminded me of that classic question. I may have asked you guys this before in like the Discord, just like a voice call in Discord one night. We were talking about this. It's like, if you had to survive the rest of your life with a snail chasing you.
Oh, the snail.
Like, how long could you last with that? And so it's very easy to be like, oh, I'll get on a plane and stuff. But it's like, no, the only reason the snail exists is for this. I just imagined that one armadillo that was in Massachusetts is actually like in that case. It's like hunting down.
He's
like
just
the John
sitting
Wick
in business class. He's just a business class armadillo sitting in his chair waiting for the...
Sipping a mimosa with his little armadillo snout.
Yeah.
Also, good news, Nick. It seems like in worst case scenarios, about 20% of the population of armadillos have leprosy. So if you're willing to roll the dice there, you're good.
There's an armadillo pun there.
It's like brown bats.
Roll.
Brown bats in the Midwest are like your biggest potential source of rabies.
Oh yeah, by a huge margin.
Yeah, but only like 2% of people bitten by bats or whatever get rabies or something like that.
Have you known someone to get bit by a bat?
No. But I say this just to say that, like, if you have to handle a brown bat get stuck in your house or your pool skimmer, perhaps.
That's fair. That's fair.
Which has happened to me. Wear a glove. Don't get bit.
Yeah, don't touch down bats ever. And if you think you have been bitten, please go get the anti-rabies
because you can get a vaccine.
Yeah, because it's super
if
efficacious.
You don't, and you get rabies, you will die.
There was like one woman who survived.
99.5%. Yeah, 99.9% chance you're gonna die from rabies, and it's gonna be a horrific time.
That's insane. Is it true that you like get scared of water or something of that sort?
It's very strange.
Jeez.
Yeah, and you will die. It's one of those very interesting. We could totally talk about like viruses and diseases and stuff all day, but
wait till Chloe's back. I would like to hear
something
a doctor perspective.
That is so.
That's fair.
She's not a doctor yet, please.
She's got a white coat. Got a white coat.
She does. These diseases that are just so incredibly deadly, but we can sort of just prevent.
Scurvy.
It's very interesting. Yeah. Scurvy's not that deadly. It's a horrible example, Nick.
It is if you don't eat a lime.
Or a lemon, or like a pomelo, maybe. I don't know.
Anything with any citrus,
vitamin C. I don't know. Rabies is fascinating.
It used to be deadly enough that sailors were falling out left and right on ships.
I don't think I'm just all I'm saying is that rabies and scurvy are not in the same like classification. Or like what another one comes is AIDS comes to mind because like
a lot of people in the 80s AIDS anymore. It's just
I mean you can get it, but okay, yes, you're absolutely right because it's the prophylaxis is like one pill now. We're down from a huge course of drugs. It's one pill. It keeps your viral load basically undetectable. You functionally don't have the disease. And that's, 50, 45, whatever years ago, it was a complete death sentence. There was literally nothing to be done. It's fascinating how modern medicine goes on these sorts of things.
Yeah, that's, it's very interesting. Like the idea that you could take something that would completely ravage, like you just supplant it into a different time of history or whatever. It's kind of like when you talk about giving a Victorian child like a Sprite, like a McDonald's
Sprite.
Actually, okay, so I don't buy this argument because those fucking Victorian children, their moms were giving them fucking cocaine, meth ass, whatever. Cocaine. They're like, you go down to the pharmacy, here's your meth coke, mixture for your headache. Fair.
That's fair.
These kids are probably like, Coke doesn't have actual cocaine in it. What gives?
Oh,
Come on,
you
guys.
Fell down and hurt your knee, rub some mercury on it, and go back and play.
No, those kids are hardcore.
I also love the conversation. We're just all over the place tonight, but I love the conversation of like, so we know everything about the world right now, right? Like we have all these devices and these
I make that
conveniences and stuff, but then
at home. Yeah.
But then you're talking about like, I'm going to go, if I could go back in history, like, oh my gosh, I'd be the most rich person. No, I wouldn't. Because I have no idea how to, I don't know how this thing works. This phone.
I still don't know how to buy a Bitcoin or mine it. If I went back to 2010, I would be just as poor because I don't know how to get Bitcoin then.
I don't know how to get it then. I know how to get it now.
Well, it's a lot easier now. You can use the app, but back in the day, you had to like basically be a certified ethical hacker.
You had to go on the dark web and like, I don't even know. Yeah, like whatever.
It wasn't actually that difficult, but like, I just wasn't aligned that way.
Yeah, I just know that like I ain't got that dog in me, like to be able to be like I'm going to be Steve Jobs and design the iPhone, and get to that point. It's like no, I'm not. Like I'm
go ahead,
not.
Yeah. Anybody who thinks you would, go ahead and just sketch out an iPhone on paper without looking at one. Just go ahead and draw it.
Yeah, for real.
Let's see how far you get.
Do you know how integrated circuits work? Question number one. And then we can go from there. What about the battery chemistry, perhaps?
Yeah, but the problem is it's like it's not even that alone. It's like you could know how it works, but you might not know how to, because we don't have like if you're pre-industrial revolution, you're working even further back than, I mean? You're like, there are so many processes and stuff that get you to where you are. So I think it's interesting, but it's always like the Back to the Future approach where it's like, oh, I'm just going to bet on something, like that's the simplest way to try to make the money.
And you know what? Even that, I can't remember who won the Super Bowl every year, except for like when the Colts won it. Yeah. Right. I don't.
You got to take sports almanac with you, but then you lose it and you leave it back in time, and it changes everything. So,
I mean, honestly, just time value of money. Just put your money into the stock market, and then you know what companies are going to go big.
Okay.
Just buy some Amazon stock or buy some Apple.
If I went back to
Walker swinging in with the realistic
if I went back to pre-housing market crash when I was in middle school, I don't. How am I going to buy stocks?
Buy up the entire neighborhood.
Robin Hood wasn't around when I was.
Well, okay, we've not established a premise for this thought experiment. Are you going back? Do you have to be like, am I goo goo gagaing, in 1997, or am I a full adult? It doesn't matter.
Yeah, do you
if we're
go
going
back,
to full
but
adult, I got to go to the future because I'm not there yet.
Yeah, that's fair.
Good. That's for the best, honestly.
That's fair. You know what? Let's leave it there. That's great. That's enough for that talk. So
yeah.
Well, boys, topic number 2. This is something I don't want to linger on too long, but I just have some thoughts on it because it directly has affected me. Capital One is having like an enormous outage right now. Actually, let me strike that. So we're recording this at like 9-10 p.m. Eastern on Friday, the 17th, and they just fixed it like an hour ago. And so I've used Capital One for checking I don't know why I chose it. I just did. Someone probably online just said like, oh, I like their interface, and I've liked it. I've used a lot of different checking accounts, stuff like that. But what's weird about it is I've been a customer for so long, and then they will process your direct deposit, and then they do the thing that a lot of places are doing now where they'll like deposit it a couple of days early and be like, hey, like we saw that this is coming through and we know you're good for it because you've been around for a long time. And I think that's cool.
It's a certified Fedwire or ACH transfer, and it's not going to not come once they get the request or whatever. Yeah.
But it does feel good when you know, like, hey, payday's coming up on Friday, and then like
but Thursday night I'm going out to Taco Bell, baby.
B-dubs. Get them boneless wings on Thursdays because they know
that's that mid-America middle class right there going to B-dubs.
Absolutely. And so so it always hits when you get that email. For me, and then at this job, it's been super early. So I don't know how early they actually push the direct deposits out, but like Wednesday around this time, so like 10 p.m., I get the email. And then like, so between Wednesday and Thursday, it's fully in there or whatever. And then Friday is payday, and that's when everyone goes through. But what's crazy is like, I was telling Heather, I went on to check because it didn't hit between Wednesday and Thursday. And then I looked again today and it didn't. But last night I was going through, we were doing tax stuff. And so I was in,
fun.
I was in our thing for looking for W-2s and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, I'll just look. And we use a thing called UKG for like our whatever pay stubs and stuff. And so I click into it, and it had a thing that says, hey, it's payday, whatever. And it says, you can see what your last payment was. And I click, and it says $0 net pay. And I was like, well, did I forget to submit my time card or something? I didn't know what happened. I was like, why would my boss, not tell me if that's what the case is? I forgot a couple weeks earlier, I got a message that the first paycheck was going to be weird because they're doing like this weird HSA balancing thing. Like, so our company will deposit a certain amount of money into our HSA account for us. But then like to keep the bookkeeping right, they were doing a second little pay stub that had zero across the board and like basically giving us back the money. Like the first one, it was looking like a deduction.
Yeah, they're cooking the books.
Essentially, it looked, none of the money had hit Capital One. And they did this thing at the beginning of the year that was just like messing with my head. And I was in a whirlwind for a second there. I was like, what is like even happening right now?
Mr. Krabs meme.
So I find the right one. And then I log on to the Capital One app, like, because I usually just do it from the computer. And they didn't have any flag or anything at the top. But on the app, it said, hey, we're experiencing difficulties, if you need to know what's going on. And so I clicked on it. It didn't really give much. But then I just found this is from CNN Business. It says Capital One says a technical issue is affecting some customers' ability to get money. This is updated. This will be old because this was updated around 2 p.m. today. But essentially, a third-party vendor that helps this navigation process of everything was moving all the that helps them move the money, do direct deposits. But the weird thing was, we had paid some bills and that wasn't going out either. So it wasn't just inbound, it was outbound as well. Stuff was not clearing, going right. But somehow
what's the name of that third party?
What do you say? FIS Global.
Okay.
So basically I had paid the bills and that money had gotten to them, but it hadn't registered on my account. So there was something weird going on where I don't know if it was something where it was just like assuring the apps in websites and things like that. Like because Capital One, at least where I'm at, I know down in Texas, they do have some physical locations, but they don't here. I saw them when I was in Houston one time. I don't know if they still do, but this was like,
I think I
2016 or something. But like there's not a Capital One here. So I couldn't have physically gone. I do have a debit card. I could have in theory checked that, but I don't know. But the base thing I wanted to say, and then I'll be done talking because I want to get your opinions on it, is like, it's wild how easily some of like the pillars of society can just be knocked over with like one outage. Like it is payday today, and how many like millions of people have money hitting, you know what I mean? And like, I don't know. Thankfully, we didn't have anything like scheduled to try to pull, or it wasn't like that deep for us. Right. But like, Walker, what do you think about like the idea that like, oh, we're all digital like on this, and it's great until it doesn't work?
No, I mean, society hangs by a single thread. It's worse than you think, in fact.
And it's very frayed.
There's like some fucking guy running one COBOL server somewhere that if it goes down, we're all absolutely effed. You know, we exist by the mercy of several ones and zeros, and it's not worth thinking about because it can all come crashing down. This is why you know, like planning for the worst in a lot of these, you know, like, well, what if the stock market crashes? What if the whatever, you know? Well, then we're all totally screwed, and you shouldn't have to worry about that anyway because money has no meaning.
So are you telling me that I need to bury all my money in my backyard?
No, don't worry about
what
the
I'm
money.
telling you. Well, okay, we can start the prepper conversation at some point too, but I think stockpiling guns and ammo is fucking stupid, and you should stockpile information about how to grow food and, you know, rebuild iPhones perhaps.
But also stockpile some guns so that the idiots who try and steal the food that you grew don't steal it.
Yeah, well, we can have this conversation later.
I'm going to be on the opposite side of you just for the sake of doing it.
We'll put a pin in this one.
That's funny. Nick, do you have any thoughts on this?
Well, yeah, Kristen and I were talking about it this morning. She saw the articles and stuff, and apparently it was more than just like not being able to, you know, get to your bank account. Like some people have mortgages that they tried to pay their mortgage and then it wasn't working. Everything's broken. And then since their mortgage didn't get paid, Capital One still hit them with a late fee. And I'm like, that absolutely can't be legal. I don't know how that works.
I did see, I don't know if it was on Twitter or if statement came out from their CEO that said, like, on the backside of this, they're going to write all of that stuff.
Yeah.
I think a lot of that is automated, so they're going to do that. I'm just praying that it doesn't hit at the time of month or anything that would like push to like a credit bureau type situation. That would be really gnarly.
It did seem from what she was telling me, so this is third-hand information from articles she was reading, but it did seem like a lot of people were calling like, hey, why am I getting a late fee? And like, well, because you didn't pay your mortgage. Well, like it was a thing like, well, deal with it kind of stuff. So I'm assuming if that was the case, there was enough pushback that the CEO
that's fair
was like, hold on, let me make this right.
I like the idea sometimes of like running my own business and being the boss and doing that kind of stuff. But when it hits a scale like this, the idea of being the guy to figure this out.
There's also functionally in corporate America with the CEO of a business this big, he's not the guy. He has no idea how this stuff works. He's there to like boost up a public image and jerk off the board members.
And to be the scapegoat. That's that. I think not that I don't think CEO pay is actually wildly overinflated, but like that's partially what they're paying you for is to be the fall guy.
Yeah,
right. Even though he's not really the guy.
No, and he's not responsible, but you're being paid to be the fall guy.
Yeah, that's fair. Anybody who's worked in a corporate environment and a large company knows that like they don't know shit about what's going on. And then from the other side, like I have a couple of really good friends who are network engineers and who have told me several times, they're like, there's so much that could go wrong so quickly that everything would stop working. And then like working in technology for finance companies, I work directly with banks and Capital Ones and whatnot. There's stuff that like, if our system stops working, they can't screen payments. So at a certain point, a company will probably start letting those payments through anyway, because really all we do is screen to make sure the people paying and getting paid aren't bad guys. But like that's still opening up to a whole world of compliance and fines and potentially letting terrorism get funded or whatever. So it can happen for no reason. Like there have been days where some product has just like stopped working because somebody was like, oh, I don't know, our server stopped working, so we had to fail over to a different server. Like, how do I explain this to the customer? Like, I don't know.
It happens. These things just happen, and it's going to happen more and more with, you know, as things get more and more integrated and technologically complex. I mean, I don't know if
everything's running on cloud instances now and not on prem, and it's like, okay, we're managing.
But where is it though?
Yeah, it's somebody else's computer. Yeah.
Okay, but it's like that's a computer in a building somewhere.
Yeah.
You're managing a product, but really, like, if your cloud host, your provider goes down, there's nothing you can do about that either. It's the whole technology is the worst, man.
It's really just we are so precarious. I'm not going to throw shade at my dad, and he actually has some very valid points about this. So I'm an old dad kid. My father is an older gentleman, and he just he's not the greatest at technology because and I don't think this is an unfair expectation, but he expects it to work. And you can't do that. You have to have some level of like understanding that it's not going to work. And so he'll call me sometimes and be like, "This isn't working. What the fuck?" I'm like, "Well, sometimes it just doesn't, and you need to figure it out from there." And he's like, "That's what the hell."
You know, like how sometimes somebody gets a disease for no reason. It's like that, but with electricity.
Yeah, basically that's what I tell him. He's like, "No, but it should work though." And I'm like, "Okay, but it does not."
Yeah.
Speaking of pillars of society that have gone down due to technology outages, I pulled up to McDonald's for breakfast this morning, and their whole system was down, and it almost ruined my day.
Oh no!
If you were trying to get ice cream for breakfast, weren't you?
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't dare do that because their ice cream machine's not up. That whole right to repair thing has not kicked in nearly well enough. But
right to repair the McDonald's ice cream machine.
I've only ever been to one McDonald's where I ordered ice cream and they told me the machine was broken, and unfortunately, it was in the smack middle of like the hood. It was like 38th and Meridian, the corner of 38th and Meridian in Indianapolis. It just like I was like, come on, guys! Don't. Is that
the one that's connected to the Shell station?
Gas station?
Or the gas station? Yeah.
I do love the gas station at McDonald's.
It was also like 2 a.m. I was like working this weird security job, and I just wanted a Blizzard, and they're like, "Nah, it's broke."
Oh yeah. I actually had a Blizzard earlier this week for the first time when I was coming back from Indy.
Or McFlurry,
I traveled up there to see my parents and stuff.
Yeah, Blizzard is DQ. Come on, can't confuse our corporate overlords.
Yeah, you threw me for a loop there. I won't make that mistake again. So I know my McDonald's. So, but yeah, that was that almost ruined my day. But if I did not live in a metro area where there was a McDonald's on like every corner, it would have been devastating. So boys, this would have been a probably better segue, and I wouldn't have gone down that path had I thought about it. But speaking of technology related things that don't work how they're supposed to, boys, the Nintendo Switch 2 was announced, and it was the worst kept secret ever. And so I wanted to talk about it a little bit, and then just to kind of wrap up for the evening, I wanted to talk a little bit about like console memories growing up and what that is. So let's talk about the Switch real quick. I should have pulled up.
So when you say worst kept secret, I'm not really a Nintendo guy, just because like I didn't get a Switch, and the only reason that I would like play a Nintendo game, I mean, I wanted to play Zelda really badly, but then I would have to have invested in a Switch just for the one game. It didn't happen, so I don't really follow it.
Could be
allegedly you could play it on your PC.
Allegedly,
yeah, allegedly, and so I think it's something that's uniquely suited is the wrong word, but like poignant to the Switch because it's this hybrid, right? The handheld / home console deal where they have to. There are things that have to fall in line, right, for them to be ready for whenever the launch is coming. So it was rumored that the console was going to be announced today on the 17th, and then it was going to be released in March. That is not true. Yesterday. What was yesterday?
2 days ago? No, yet.
It was yesterday, real early in the morning yesterday. So the 16th, and it is. All they announced was that on April 4th, they're doing a formal reveal, larger gameplay. They're probably going to reveal what Switch 2 games will be, will be out. They did confirm a few things. They confirmed that they're keeping the same form factor. However, they're increasing the size of the screen. So they've not given us dimensions, but people have gone in, they've gone pixel peeping and figured out like, okay, this is how big the Switch was, and it's sitting next to this image here. And if they kept it right, then that means that the 7-inch screen is like 8.25 or something like that.
Sure.
Things of that sort. But what I will say is increasing the screen size will actually significantly increase the size of the Joy-Cons as well, making them much more usable. The other thing that is rumored, but I don't believe has actually been confirmed yet. However, they showed, they put out, which I loved, the little Easter egg that it was a 2-minute and 22-second video for the Switch 2.
Oh, I didn't see that. That's cool.
The what they showed was, an all black body, which the original Switch had the black body, but the Joy-Con also have black. They're fully black on them as well, with like a orangish, pinkish color and like a light blue. So we had the red and blue Joy-Con, on the original Switch, handed off and no like player 1, player 2 type situation. Yeah. They've gone a little more subtle with that. I don't know if they've confirmed that it's magnetic, but it has essentially what it has is a port on the side, like a jack, and you're like jacking into the side of the Switch with these things. So it was one of those things where, Nick, you brought up almost immediately. You're like, okay, my child is going to break this.
Well, yeah, Reagan dropped the Switch the other day, and the Joy-Cons were on it, and she came downstairs and she goes, I dropped it, and the Joy-Con, the way it hit, it twisted off. And so the plastic, a very small part of the Joy-Con case was cracked.
It's like a dovetail, right? It like slides down.
Yes.
Okay.
And so the Joy-Con part slides into the Switch, and it had rotated out, and so it cracked the plastic. And so basically I had to put it back in and then pop it back into place. It still functions. It just has a small crack on the thing, but it's plastic, so I was able to bend it back. Right.
Gotcha.
So yeah, the thing that I was wary about is that little port sticking out of the side of the Switch too. If you drop a Joy-Con and do that, are you going to break that little piece off, which is probably soldered to the main board of the Switch and way harder to replace?
Yeah. Here's why I don't think that's going to be an issue, and that is my grand thing. I think that this is going to be over the next 3 or 2.5 months is going to be overinflated. I think people are going to be saying, now I do think that's going to be something that can break off. However, if you see the so you have the Joy-Con itself, and then you have a small like recessed portion of the Joy-Con. It kind of like goes in a little bit, and then that part sits inside. Yeah. So what I think we're going to end up in a situation is a lot of that pressure is going to be transferred to the body of the Switch itself, instead of that one little thing. Now, inside the, so you have the rectangular body of the Switch, and then on the sides, if you haven't seen it, like I said, hey, this is a quick plug, bit.ly/ForcedToPod Discord, all lowercase. We figured that out. We had a little bit of workings we had to do on the back end last time. bit.ly/ForcedToPod Discord. We're doing a episode breakdown on the Discord channel every week with the links and stuff we talk about. Join the conversation there. We had some really cool conversations this week about stuff we talked about. So anyways, we'll have a picture of the Switch 2 on there if you haven't seen it and you don't feel like wanting to Google it. However, there are recessed oval, they are long, very elongated oval shapes that the Joy-Cons are going to slide into. Yep. And if they're magnetically attached there, I could see that as a way that they've removed the pressure point of that little jack that's inside that, oval compartment, or however you want to say it. Now,
there's no way that the electronic connection is structural. There's just no way.
But I also don't think it's going to be in a place that's really going to cause too much of an issue with the, like, I think I want to call it like the chasm or whatever, the chassis, whatever you're clicking the Joy-Con into. I think it's robust enough that you're not even going to be able to miss that port. You know what I mean? And it's going to do that. But I am intrigued by what you brought up, Nick. Like, what happens like when it falls? I guess anything can happen physically, but you know, there comes to a point.
I'm sure it's a design improvement I'm sure it's a design improvement.
Yeah, I just know that, like, you know, Murphy's Law. Anything that can go wrong is good. I'm going to spend $350 or whatever the price point of this thing's going to be, and at some point, a child or myself or whatever is going to drop it or drop something on it, or who knows? I can't think of all the scenarios, but it's going to break. Something's going to break. And
so
then,
let's get sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, that's right. I wasn't really trying to get too like deep into the intricacies of what we think is going to happen or how it's going to be repaired. I just like that was the one thing that stood out to me out of the video. It was like, okay, everything looks cool. Hey, what happens if I break this?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's why we're here, right? Like, just a bullshit about whatever. But it, the concept of like, it's so much like the Switch, the original Switch, which I think is an incredible thing. And the fact that they've said all games, physical cartridges, will be backwards compatible. That's huge.
That I did not hear that. That's actually incredible.
Huge.
Yeah.
So if you make,
because I
if
have
you're going to make the investment
already
in a Switch, which I would say, I think, Nick, have you played both Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom?
No, I tried Breath of the Wild, and it's just not for me. I appreciate it. I appreciate everything that was done to make it and how good it is as an art piece, but it's not the kind of video game that holds my stupid rodent attention span.
So what I was going to suggest, though, is like, I think both of those games are enough to invest in a Switch.
Especially with upgraded hardware, if there's going to be any sort of
I would be really, really intrigued to see what they do if they take the PlayStation approach where they say, hey, we have a better console, and so that game we gave you that is like arguably the best game ever made, even though it's not. I don't think it's definitely not any of our favorite games ever made. Breath of the Wild is one of the best games ever made. Yeah. And so they say, like, hey, you want to play it how you've always wanted to, which for Nintendo is just going to be like 60 frame,
like, sure. A little better.
It's going to be 60 frames, but solid and be able to do that. But here's a question I have for you. What do we think this is going to be priced at when it comes out? So let me give you context.
Boy, I hope it's less than $400.
So the Nintendo Switch came out $300 launch point. And this was in what, 2017?
Yeah. Was it really 2017?
2017.
Yeah.
There's no way it's not like $500.
March 3rd, 2017 came out for $299.99. And
it came with the dock.
Yeah. I mean, all this is going to come
I assume the new one will come with a dock.
Yeah. It comes with a little sleeker.
Sure hope so.
And so then the next revision they did, so they did a Switch Lite, which was $200. So obviously that was stepped down. No Joy-Cons coming off of that. That was closer to a Game Boy.
Yeah, it was basically a 3DS that didn't fold.
Yeah. And then the Switch OLED, which was a step up, they added $50 for the OLED screen. Now,
wasn't the OLED just a screen improvement? Was there any hardware change inside? Like processing power?
I think there was some. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head what it was. Okay. I do believe that there was some. It was a $50 difference that they did there. And it is.
And it was also way later when it came out.
Yeah, it is lighter. And the OLED screen is remarkably nicer than the other. And I know it's OLED. You're talking LCD and OLED, but however, it is highly rumored / confirmed that this is not an OLED screen that is on this. So
that's fine. I'm going to put a screen protector on it anyway, and it's going to look weird.
It'll be fine.
Yeah.
I'm interested. Okay. First reaction to that is that the Steam Deck OLED version is like definitely more than $50 more expensive than the other one. So that's nice. I bet they'll do an OLED eventually, but
yeah, I agree.
Don't the OLEDs?
I think they'll have all the models at some point.
Oh, I'm sure. Do the OLEDs take more or less power than LCDs? I actually don't know off the top of my head.
I should know this for my line of work and my hyper interests. I don't know off the top of my head. I guess I didn't know that they would be different. I just kind of assumed that they were along the same.
Here's an AI overview. OLED displays use less power for darker images, while LCD displays use less power for brighter images. So yes, and also no.
Makes sense.
OLED displays can use up to 40% less power than LCDs for images that are mostly black.
Yeah, okay, well, that's not a video game though.
Yeah.
So right. I wonder if they're trying to start by, well, okay, I guess we're totally assuming it is not an OLED. I could see them doing the LCD for like battery consumption issues to start out with, while they're still optimizing that, because that's like thing number one for any of these handheld devices is how long can you use it.
Yeah.
Well, to answer
with a bigger screen, it's probably going to be less time, but with a bigger chassis, you have a bigger battery.
Yep.
Presumably, you would put a bigger battery in it.
I think they've sized up everything intentionally. And then with your question at the beginning, Walker, which was like, why do I say that this is like the worst kept secret? It's because it is exactly that. Like the screen manufacturers for the Switch 2, or what, the sequel to the Switch, as it's been called for so long, because I was hoping that it was Super Nintendo Switch. I wanted it so bad. I wanted them to call it that.
Switch 2 is actually an ass name. It sucks.
With everything in my body, I wanted it to be Super Nintendo Switch.
Switch to what? What are we switching to, guys?
Hey, they figured that out. They put that first snap in the original Switch trailer, and I was hooked. And that's the thing that's interesting. Like, they're losing that with this, right? Because there's not the physical sliding on of it anymore to get that snap. So I'll be interested to see if there's anything that replicates that in like software when you put the Joy-Cons on. Will be interesting.
Haptic feedback or something.
Yeah, I think that this is hitting a $400 price point. I think it's lower.
Easy. Absolutely.
It's lower than, like, the profit margins are going to be lower. I think that they've been cooking first party games so much. We did our fantasy critic draft this last week. Walker, you had brought it up. I think, what was that? Was that before we took the break for the holiday? You brought it up again, and it was that. It was our last podcast before you brought up. You said, we should do the fantasy critic again. So we did all that. Mm-hmm. I'm so confident that a 3D Mario platformer came out. I drafted that game, and it's unannounced. There's nothing. I fully with everything in my heart believe we're getting a new 3D Mario,
baby.
Well, okay, so for reference, I was just looking because I was curious. The 1 terabyte OLED Steam Deck is $650. And
but it also plays more than Nintendo games.
No, true. And that's actually one thing I wanted to bring up as part of this discussion is like, okay, well, if I'm going to get a handheld, my Steam library investment is so bananas.
It's like, yeah. I just looked up. Here's my problem with Nintendo as a whole. I just looked up the price of Nintendo. We're going to
catch
Switch.
some heat for this.
The regular Nintendo Switch, the one that is now going to be pretty much obsolete, is still $299. And also, all of their games are still fucking $60. Doesn't matter if they released in 2017 when the console came out, it's still $60. Because why? Because you can only play them on the Switch and only Nintendo can make them. So I hate that business.
That's really silly, actually.
Policy. Yeah. I hate it so much, but I still buy the goddamn console and I buy the games I want to play.
So you hate good business, like, for them? Like the fact that they're making,
they have
like,
it's the free market, man.
Yeah, they're making some of these like the best games of all time, and then they've made some incredible hardware to go with it. And like just because we know another one's coming, you guys are invested in Nintendo. Yeah.
I just like, if a game has been out for 9-8 years, it shouldn't still be the same price it was when it came out.
Something is worth what people will pay for it, and I'm fairly confident that they're going to keep it there if people are still paying. I'm going to
start emulating shit. Nintendo's going to miss out on my $60.
I mean, I do wish there was some sort of, like, more scale decrease there on the price, but Sachs is right. Like, they don't have any motivation to do it, and it's the way the news goes.
I also think with the fact that they're still doing physical, there's an argument to be made that discount could be found elsewhere. Whereas if PlayStation or Xbox were doing this and didn't give you an option, and we're a little spoiled, Nick, because you and I are Xbox fanboys. We enjoy our Game Pass. We enjoy doing that. And so having the option to do that and like having the Xbox world at our fingertips for whatever the price is per month, because they are raising it pretty aggressively nowadays.
Yeah.
But, even with that, it's like, okay, I can get in, do for as long as I want to, get out. Whereas with Nintendo, because they're still consistently putting out the physical cartridges, there's a side to be said that's like, hey, if we're going to continue to do this, right, we're going to continue to pay the cost to put the physical cartridges out and put the physical games and stuff. Like, we're going to let other people sell their stuff back to GameStop and then you get it secondhand or Facebook Marketplace or something of that sort. So,
and a Switch game is like a great secondhand thing to buy because they're really hard. It's not like a PS2 disc or whatever. You're not going to scratch it up. It's really hard to really maim them in a way that makes them not playable secondhand. The problem is you got GameStop keeping those prices, secondhand prices, kind of high. So
yeah, for sure.
Something I would say is that, like, I'm not sure. I haven't been looking at Nintendo's books or whatever, but there's definitely an argument to be made for like paying the price to, like you said, Nintendo kind of has a monopoly on Nintendo, but there's an argument to be made for like paying them the money to keep letting them do what they're doing, because broadly Nintendo doesn't fuck up that much. They do pretty good work that is unique and enjoyable, and
every other console release is bad. Isn't that how it went?
Yeah.
The Wii U is definitely garbage.
Yeah. The actual Wii was incredible. And it was literally the hottest thing you could get on the market. One thing I want to say about the Switch and the business model and like what you just brought up, Walker, is like recently, I think it was at the turn of the year, a guy by the name of Shuhei Yoshida, he was the president of first party games at Sony for a long time. He was I was listening to an interview he was doing with on Kind of Funny's podcast network, and he was on there and he was talking about he was the 32nd employee at PlayStation. So he was ground floor, but then he worked his way up. He was super passionate from an early time at Sony about doing gaming. And then he was talking about he just retired recently. So he did a little thing for the last 5 years in the indie space, and he was helping kind of PlayStation get back their indie love. Because when they did PS4, Xbox took that from them. Like, that's the only thing that Xbox had on them at that point, was like, hey, we're better for indie devs and we're working with them and doing that kind of stuff. So he kind of took that on. But one thing he talked about was they talked about like the competition aspect, and they talked about how PlayStation and himself, like when he was, so high up at Sony, how they viewed their time, fighting against Nintendo and Xbox. And he explicitly said, we were not in competition with Nintendo. Nintendo did their own thing, and they taught kids how to play games, how to use controllers, how to do that. And then they sent them to us, and it was so baller. It was so baller because it's so true. Like, it's a pipeline. They're their own unique little thing, and it's different because I don't own one. I don't think I've ever bought any Nintendo products broadly. So that's intriguing.
Not that actually not true. I did buy some Pokemon figurines in Japan, but I digress.
Yeah. Oh, that's sick. Yeah.
So I haven't given them much money, but
you went to Japan.
I have the money to do their thing.
I have a lot of great memories with Nintendo. So let's use that to launch into the final topic for tonight. I want to close with this, boys. What are your guys' earliest console memories? So like,
oh, this is good.
Where do you guys get, like, where do you come down? What was your pathing with that? When is the first time you remember? So like I was Nintendo growing up, like fully. The first time touching a console I remember was playing the Super Nintendo with my mom, actually. We were playing in my bedroom, and we were playing 2-player, or maybe we were just passing the controller back and forth. I just remember playing like, I don't even remember which Mario it was, just 2D Mario on that. So Walker, it seems like you got something locked in. So what do you got?
So my parents were like not were pretty anti-video games, so I didn't have much access when I was growing up. Actually, I did. I played a little at my friends' houses when I went over. I remember playing like I think it was Kirby Air Ride at one friend's sleepover.
Nice.
Another one we play Call of Duty on my friend's Xbox 360 or whatever. But when I got my own first console, I think my dad was taking pity on me, but he was like, talking to mom, like, we got to have a Bluetooth player, and the PlayStation 3 could function as a Bluetooth player. And so
Blu-ray?
we got one for Blu-ray. I'm sorry. It's so fucking silly that I forgot about that. Yeah.
No, I thought it made sense.
No, it's Blu-ray. It was Blu-ray.
Right. No, it made sense that he would just say it wrong as an old guy thing to do.
Yeah, like what you said earlier. Yeah.
No, and it's actually funny because my dad is actually super in touch with like AV tech stuff. Like we always had like super nice tuner amps and speakers and everything. He loved that, which is why he wanted the next hotness in.
You should have called him in for the OLED question earlier. You should have called him in.
Know that he's out now, but
I bet crushing
he's out of the
cold
games.
ones. I bet crushing cold ones in his garage absolutely rips, dude. He's got the best sound system.
That's where the model trains are too. So I'll have it's pretty sick.
Go. Does he live in Texas? Where's he live? I need to go hang out.
He lives in Maine. He lives in Maine.
On my way.
We're solidifying.
You'd like you two actually are going to get along when you meet him one day. Regardless, the Blu-ray player, and he took pity on me and was like, okay, we can go to the Blockbuster and we can rent a PlayStation 3 game for you. And that video game was the fucking Ratatouille video game. And that was the first game I played on my own PlayStation. It sucked. It was a terrible game. I did like one level and then we had to return it to the Blockbuster. But that was so like funny. Core memory is I remember like, this is my PlayStation and I'm going to play, in my own house, fucking Ratatouille.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Man.
Cooking up.
Going to Family Video. Oh, that was so classic. Did you have them down in Indy, Nick?
Yeah. Well, we had
Family Video. I wasn't sure how widespread they were.
I actually worked at a Family Video in college for like a week.
Really?
Yeah. My console journey was weird because it was like before my parents got divorced, we didn't have any consoles. We did a lot of hitting stuff with sticks out in the yard, and it was a good time, to be honest. But then I think our first console was a PS2. I think well, hold on, let me back up. I had a lot of experience because every time I would go visit my cousins in Michigan, one of them had a PlayStation or like a 64. So we would play GoldenEye or Perfect Dark, or we play Crash Bandicoot when we all got together and all that stuff. And so we had all those, right. And then I think we got a PlayStation, a PS1. My brother and I had it. We played the hell out of it. We played a lot of Crash Bandicoot. We played that, like I said, I think last week, the Emperor's New Groove game. We might have talked about this during the fantasy draft, but like there was a level where you pull the lever and you get in a little cart and you're like going back and forth and dodging obstacles, but then you flip backwards and it inverts the left and right.
Oh, yeah.
And we were young, so we were like kept dying. So we figured out if you just flip the controller over and then use them backwards,
that's
it would
brilliant.
Work.
That's honestly brilliant. Yeah.
So
that's so
we
cool.
had that, and then we got the PlayStation 2, and somehow I ended up with a first gen Xbox, and then after all that, we ended up getting a 64. Which one of my mom's friends was like, hey, I have this Nintendo 64. My kids don't play it, or they're older or whatever. Do you want it for your kids? Like, just gave it to us. And it wasn't, that far removed from it being the new hotness. So that was kind of cool. I still have it upstairs in the closet.
Oh, that's cool.
So yeah, I was playing like the original PlayStation games. So we got PS2. We got fun stuff like, ATV versus MX Unleashed or whatever. It's like off-road dirt bikes and four-wheelers and stuff. My brother and I played that. It had a killer soundtrack. We would play, I think my favorite game we played was Gauntlet Dark Legacy, which I've gone back and looked, and it's not that good. I mean, the
It's
old
the worst. Never go back. Never go back and look.
The old arcade Gauntlet game rips, right? And this one did too, but it's just like I played so much of it. We 100%ed it with all of the characters, like got everything.
Is that the one with like the wizard, barbarian, Valkyrie, and Valkyrie class fucking hits?
It was good. And that was pre-internet. Like we did 100% run with all of them. And what was the other one we played? Shoot, I can't remember. I don't know. I'm sure I'll think of it later. But like there were several games that we were just locked into. And then in high school, I had the first gen Xbox with Halo. And after that came out, every time I went and visited my cousins in Michigan, we'd have LAN parties. Everybody would bring their console. We'd hook them all together. We'd play, no screen peeking. Everybody would have their own TV and stuff. And there's just like huge CRT TVs in like in my cousin's bedroom. So we're all looking at our own big ass TV. And then I had that hooked up in my car for a while. I had a little travel DVD player that had the red, white, and yellow inputs. And I put a power inverter in my cigarette lighter and plugged the Xbox in. And then, I'd hang out with friends and we'd play Xbox while I was in my car or whatever. And then in college, I ended up with the 360. I don't know how. I think it was my brother's, and then he got rid of it or something. And then I didn't buy a console after that. I had a Nintendo 2DS for a little bit and decided it wasn't for me, took it back. But that 360 got me all the way through till the Xbox One X. Well, I bought a 1S, sold it to a buddy when the 1X came out and upgraded. And now, here we are. I have a Series X. I have my PC. I have the Switch. I have a PS4, but that doesn't get plugged in. So it was just a weird, like, I just went through all the iterations. We had a Dreamcast for a while. The Dreamcast was sweet.
Yeah. Super Monkey Ball. Played on the Dreamcast a lot.
Well, and then like between high school and college, the summer between high school and college, I would go to one of my friends' house a lot, and a couple of us would hang out, and we would break out the Super Nintendo and play Super Bomberman. Like that was our thing. We'd go hang out. We'd go get food, do whatever, cause mayhem late at night, and then play Super Bomberman. Yeah. Oh, that is. Yeah. Yep. I see the link you posted. Dark Legacy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, the other game was Lord of the Rings: Two Towers.
Okay.
Like that on PS2. That game was sweet.
Huh.
It's very fun.
My
interesting.
As you were talking, I just had like so many random console memories like just pop into my head. So I'm gonna try real quick to do my quick rundown. So yeah, like I said, I had the SNES in there. The other thing I remember playing on the SNES was a lot of people say that this is like one of the actual hardest games ever made, which is the Disney's Aladdin game on the SNES.
I hear that, yeah.
Brutal.
Like Lion King.
And then it didn't have really like save states. Yeah, Lion King was in the same thing. It was just like if you lost your 3 lives or whatever, you just go back and stuff.
Yeah,
so
it was so hard.
I've got a little fun vignette for you guys actually about those Disney games.
Huh.
So way back in the day, my mom actually used to work. I don't remember. I'll have to go back and ask her, but she used to work for the Disney studio who's doing video games and stuff. So probably around this time.
Huh.
Actually, she was working to develop one game at one point for like doing like business side of things. I'll have to go grill her about it, but it just, I don't know if that game it's called the Shasta Ram. That I don't know if it ever came out, but she told me about this.
Yeah.
Those games are hard.
Yes. They were brutal. And I think it's just because they were like, very precision with the jumps and everything of that sort. So, and then I don't remember going or having a 64 myself. I remember playing a lot of 64. And so every summer or break I had, anything of that sort, my mom's sister, so my aunt on my mom's side, she used to just like full-time babysit. She just had like a ton of kids that would come over and stay like anytime there was like local snow days, stuff of that sort, and people were going. It was pretty flexible, but we'd go over there and then like everyone would bring their console, like, so you knew like, okay, if it is, that week or so you have after Christmas where you're still out of school, those were always like the best times because everyone's bringing what they got for Christmas over.
Yep.
And then she had what we dubbed the green room, which is funny because I'm sitting in my own green room now, but we had this enormous like what we would consider like the big screen TVs. I mean, it was a big screen TV, but like a big screen CRT with wheels on it, like so it could move around and stuff. And so we would hook up any console we had. I remember playing GoldenEye on that. Super Mario 64.
Like 8 adapters to get it hooked up to your TV because nothing had the right cable.
Yep.
Yeah.
I remember my uncle, he would play Madden and stuff on that. I think it was, I don't remember what he was playing on at the time, but I just remember very viscerally like a lot of video games coming through there. And then we all had handhelds. So Nick, I just saw you bring your Game Boy out. Yeah,
very nice.
This one was I had the Atomic Purple one. I don't know what happened to it. This one was actually my brother's, the Game Boy Color Pokemon edition. It still has his he carved his initials in the bottom of it.
Oh, that's cool.
So it says JDR on it. Yeah,
that's really cool.
That's really cool, man.
So had handhelds growing up, had the Game Boy SP, purple flip over and stuff.
Yep.
Going through there. And then I remember explicitly playing a lot of PlayStation 2. So I had the PS2 Slim. I got it when we hit that point. And so I had I remember on Christmas Day when I got my PlayStation playing Sly Cooper. But that game was pretty hard as well, at least just for me.
That's great.
Like at that point.
The Sly series, good. I remember playing that.
So playing Sly Cooper, I remember on Christmas. I think I had told you guys at one point, this is actually kind of a funny story. When I was in 4th grade, I had a buddy, his name was Telyn, Telyn, which I mean, that's a very unique name. So I probably could find him nowadays, but we were best friends, hung out all the time, and he came over after my birthday party. I got whatever the newest Tony Hawk game was at the time, and I got it. And we grind. So we were out in the living room. I remember it was every light was out. We just like, that visceral, we're sitting on the couch and then just getting our eyes like searingly blinded by the white of whatever map we were on at the time. Everything's off. And I remember, I think I was playing and I hit a grind on a rail. And I jumped off and I started grinding on a bench that a lady was sitting on. And it hit. And the lady NPC just goes, son of a, and just like drops it just right there. But for us in 4th grade, it was the funniest thing we had ever heard.
That's amazing.
And I'm not even kidding. We played until the sun came back up to try to get her to say it again. We both heard it separately and we both were dying laughing. And it just, we went and so that was a visceral thing, just like trying to get that. And then continuing from there, I got really, 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 really into all the Guitar Hero and Rock Band games. I got really, really good and started playing. And literally when Rock Band came out, got the Rock Band drums. And I'm not even kidding. That's literally how I started playing the drums. I'm like, okay, I can do this here. And there's an actual drum set there. And I was like, I could just like, once I figured out like which ones they had on Rock Band and like what I would hit in real life to try to replicate that. Like I knew I could keep time in doing that. And so that's why like I just like play whatever music I wanted to and do that and continue. Dougie's also very good at we used to go back and forth and stuff playing Rock Band and Guitar Hero and such.
That was the crazy thing about PlayStation 2 is that its peak run was so long. Like it peaked and then plateaued for forever. Like even when PS3 was the new hotness, like they're still dropping stuff for PS2 and you're like, well, if I don't care about having a Blu-ray player, then I'm just going to keep buying the
PS2.
And so I chained the PS2. For me, I chained it into the Wii. The Wii was the next that I got. But what's crazy is I kept my I kept my like Guitar Hero streak up. And so one of my favorite games I've like ever played, like just caught me, and I have no idea why it did so much, was Guitar Hero Aerosmith. I loved it so much. And I just did. I just loved the soundtrack on it. Obviously, a lot of it was Aerosmith, not all of it.
Right.
But like I played it so much, and it was cool having the Wii guitars. I don't have my original, but I found a few years ago that they make an adapter that you can plug into the old Wiimote connector to convert it to USB. And if you have a Wii, like a Guitar Hero controller, but from the Wii, it's by far the easiest way to connect it to a PC, so you can play, any of the open source, Guitar Hero stuff and things of that sort. And then I remember playing.
Looked into that recently. You can buy. I think you could buy new guitars.
Okay,
there's like a company. I think so. There's I think it's.
There was one like PDP or something like that recently started putting things out and doing that.
Hero.
Yeah, but then I remember playing 360, and that was when we were getting into like Call of Duty and things of that sort. But to be honest with you guys, Halo kind of missed me. I just I didn't have an OG Xbox. I was on PlayStation side of things, and then that missed me, and so I had to kind of circle back later to play. Most of the experience that I had with the original Halos was like when people would bring their stuff over, like I was saying, like they bring their Xboxes over. I had older cousins that had like the OG Xbox and 360 before I did. I did have the Red Ring of Death on the 360, which for those who don't know, it was an issue where some of the soldering, it was something with soldering that would happen.
Poor solder joints.
So what you had to actually do what people were doing to try to fix it is you would wrap it in towels and other things to overheat it, which could, for some people, could cause the solder joints to properly, I don't know. It wouldn't fix it permanently, but it would
melt it and reseat it.
You reflow the solder. Yeah. Because if solder joints are really finicky if they have even a little bit.
So it was
a great fix.
Yeah, it was crazy.
I've heard stories of dudes that were on deployment in Afghanistan. They would just put the console like on top of their little hut or whatever.
Oh yeah,
and just lay it out in the desert and just let it bake so it can fix itself.
I believe
it, dude. You missed out on like the best. If you didn't play Halo 2 and 3 online, like a lot when it came out, that was such a good time.
My first real online experiences was mostly just Call of Duty, just getting into those Call of Duty lobbies, which had their own significance there. So I don't know how much we were playing actually with a headset or anything of that sort. Right. I feel like we were playing more.
You didn't have the little keypad that hooked onto the bottom of your controller. I had one of those.
I did not. But I was playing a lot of online Call of Duty. I was playing a lot of multiplayer at that point.
Yeah.
And then I remember selling all of my consoles and stuff, going to college, and then that's when I was I got real into music at that point. And it wasn't until I got out of college, came back, moved out on my own, and I'm like, okay, I got a little more free time than I thought I would. Picked up an Xbox One. It's kind of been going from there. So
PC.
Yeah.
PC was
I kind of switched to PC. At the end of high school, but this is a really timely conversation actually, because PS5, which I do use these days, just did like a 30th anniversary update.
I saw the loading screen.
And so you can change your loading screen to go back to whichever, like PlayStation 1, 2, 3, whatever you want. And so right now I have it set to make the clicks, like the menu clicks for the old PS3, and it just hits.
Oh, so you went PS3 with it?
Yeah, no.
I had to go PS1.
I would have gone 2 for sure.
2 makes the most sense, but PS1, like the loading every time is so nostalgic. And then it was funny too, because I was like, because we have our PlayStation. It's the first time we've actually had it out permanently. Usually for me, since I've had the PlayStation, it's just been something where I'll like have it in my office for a little bit, plug it in, play God of War, or play whatever, and then put it away. It is the first time I've ever actually had it out for a long term. And Heather's actually playing Ghost of Tsushima right now, and
great game.
She's loving it. But I was trying to tell her, I was like, oh, look at this, like, whatever. And she's like, I don't care, dude. Like, just get my game up here. I'm like, no, but it's the PS1.
But
she's like, but this is the PS5. Yeah. Why do you care?
It's the thing.
So.
Oh, yeah. No, I know. I thought that was an incredibly cool thing for them to do. It really, very few things have hit in the same way for me. Yeah, honestly.
Yep.
Take note, Xbox. Give me that Xbox 360 original panel screen.
The
Let's
blades.
see what happens. Yeah.
Give him the red ring of death back.
Yeah.
Fuck up our soldering.
Allow the the grates. I don't know, Walker, if you've seen it, but like if you look down into the grates of an Xbox Series X, like they have like green, like the like Xbox green lining. Actually, I can show you this green.
Okay.
Like inside the holes on the top of it, like the air vents or whatever. It looks sick. It's really cool.
Unfortunately, the only spot I could put the Xbox was behind the TV, so you can't see it. But yeah, it does look great.
That is interesting. Like, and the PS5 is obviously way more stylized than any of the previous ones. Like they're more of a design item than they are necessarily than they have been. Yeah.
It is big. I got dark plates. So they're the ones from D brand. They're not the actual ones from PlayStation. And so they're a little shorter, like they're stubbier and rounded off. So they don't have like the pop collar anymore. Mine doesn't. It's more rounded off.
I like it. I
don't hate it. I just didn't like the white. I just wanted it in black. So, well, boys, this has been fun. It's a good time going back, talking about the pillars of technology and the pillars of society being knocked down. Can you, if you can easily access it, I would love to see some pictures of your old consoles you got around. So
yeah, we have a
picture
of your
brother's
somewhere.
Game Boy would be cool.
Oh yeah, I'll take that in a minute,
just so people can see it. But yeah, so if you want to see that, you're going to go to bit.ly/ForcedToPod Discord. We'd love to talk to you there, have that conversation with you, continue hanging out. And then, for anyone who's seeing any of the clips and stuff we're doing, like I said, at the front of the show, trying to level things up a little bit in 2025. And so you may see more of that. You may see, you may see pages for the pod on different social medias and stuff that you do. I'll leave you with this thought. We figured out this week that Walker is real big on YouTube. Nick is real big on Instagram, and Sax, unfortunately, is really big on TikTok, and that's going away. So
pour one out.
They love me over there. So, but until next time, y'all have a good week.